Hey guys, it's Yusuf. Today's video blog, which is actually the first Power Apps video blog I'm doing, is going to be on creating a IT help desk Power App while using some of my favorite UX UI tricks. Now to get started, you can see I have these really super annoying dogs that are really making it hard to record. So as we get into this Power App building and you want to get a little creative, I suggest if you have annoying dogs like this, you find some awesome treats to distract them. Is this going to work for you? Huh? There you go, buddy. And if you have kids, I don't know, find them a treat or some baby shark. But we're going to get into it and we're going to create some funness. Now, a treat for yourself, definitely suggest a glass of wine. Definitely helps boost creativity. Creative already. All right, so I'm kind of doing this from scratch. I did create the table ahead of time. And like I said, this is going to be a just simple help desk Power App. How I'm envisioning this is a way that people can just email, let's say, help at whatever your domain is. People can email help desk instead of going into an app and filling out a ticket. Now, of course, when they do that, all you really have to work off of is an email, so subject and body and who it's from. But I really think it's a good way to have a help desk, definitely for, let's say, small to mid-sized agencies. So what you'll see here is I created a Sharepoint list. Now, you can use Sharepoint list if you want to make a help desk, but the only thing you have to keep in mind is you're eventually going to hit a threshold of how much data you can keep in here. So on a simple list like this, once you hit 5,000, you're going to max out. When it comes to something like this, if I'm going to use SharePoint, it's a simple enough process that I know I won't hit that 5,000 right away, but of course, maybe through a year it will. You can do something where, anything that's 3 months or older, you have deleted. You can do that with an easy flow. So you can run a flow that will, check it, let's say, the first of every month and delete anything 3 months older. And in this case, like I said, it's a simple help desk app, and I don't foresee the team that would use this as having to have all that archive information. You can build an app, obviously, where a user would go in, but I would say the big reason why I like that it's a email is because if they're having some kind of login issue with Power Apps, which is something I see all the time, it's going to be nice for them to email. And then you may also want to have an option to be able to Slack or use Teams to message the help. So anything like that is kind of where I'm coming from. So starting with an email, I'm not going to get into how to set up the flow, but essentially what would happen is if you have a service desk email, anytime an email is received, a new one, it would enter an item into your SharePoint list. Or if you're using what other data source you're using, like common data source. So you can take a look at this. If you want to follow along, now's a good time to pause and create the list matching this if you want a complete match. What I did is we have the title, which would be the subject line of the email, description, which is the body of the email, submitted by name and email. Those two are just coming from whoever submitted the ticket. Assigned name and assigned email would be based on the help desk support person who's assigned the ticket to themselves. Submitted date. Now, when you see submitted date, that would be the date it's created, which in this case, you can have that if you're using SharePoint. There isn't already a created date. I built a manual one just so that I can put in some made up data in there. But if you're actually using this, you wouldn't have the submitted date. In addition to the submitted date, I added a submitted month, day, and year. So those are number fields, and that's if you've seen the post I did on Twitter about how to get around date delegation. That's a simple way. So you can have a rule that anytime it's added, it enters the month and day and year fields. That's going to be super helpful because when I want to get into the app and look at pulling things by when they're submitted or anything like that, that's an easy one to do. Same with completed. So I've added completed month, day, and year. The completed is going to be when the ticket's closed, because if I'm a manager, I'm probably going to want to see how many tickets were done for the day. Even if you have just a small team of 5, you're going to want to get an overview of what your team's been working on. And so again, to get around the date delegation, we're using the number field because that is something we can delegate without having any issues on. Notes, this would be notes for the IT team to enter anything in there. And then the other ones I might have missed, status and priority. So status, you'll see I also use a number. A lot of times you might want to be tempted to just do a drop down if you're using SharePoint. I find that using a number field is a lot cleaner. There's no delegation issues. There's no any extra weird stuff you have to do with patching the data, anything like that. So using a number, I'll have, in this case, I'm thinking 3 statuses. So 1 would be, let's say active, 2 on hold, and 3 completed. You may want to have more, but you can do that. What you'd want to do is probably have a separate table that has all those items listed, and then you can kind of do a lookup to match what that status would be in the text form, opposed to just the number. And sorry, my dogs are being annoying. Jeff, come here. Very unprofessional dogs. All right. So like I said, if you want, pause, go ahead and create this quick SharePoint list. I put some kind of dummy data in here. I actually took it from some tickets from my actual IT app and changed the names around a little bit to not embarrass anyone for any questions that someone on the IT side may find to be annoying. So I have some dummy data in here. Now I'm going to jump into my Power App. So I'm going to do a tablet. I'm not going to get into making this responsive. I'll try to keep this video semi-short and sweet, but we're going to really focus on kind of the UX end. So I'm going to go ahead and connect my data. All right, so now before we get into anything, before I jump into the app, now we're doing this at an accelerated speed, meaning I would normally spend a little more time through a discovery phase and getting all the requirements and kind of mocking up the flow of the app and all of that. But there are times where we're asked to do something quick. And so if you're in that case, you still want to take some of these simple steps. I never want to just jump in and design an app within Power Apps, because you may end up changing stuff and doing a lot of back and forths. So some of the stuff I use to plan things out, let's say the design part, I do use apps like Figma, XD, Sketch. A lot of times though, I'm using them for when I'm doing non-Power Apps projects, like a native app where I have to hand off that information to, let's say, the front end and back end developers. But when you're doing a Power App, those tools are cool, but you can totally use PowerPoint. You don't need to have any of those extra kind of UX, UI design tools. So as I'm thinking about this, this is a IT app. So it's for the IT team to manage any tickets they're getting. And so kind of the first few things I want to do is think about, what's my goal? Who am I doing this for? What's the most important information? And so I'm just going to jot down some notes on how I kind of take a stab at every time I get into an app. So first I'm going to look at, what's the app? And this is, like I said, IT, help desk app. Then let's actually just bullet these. And then who is this for? So although I have all users within the company that can email the help desk email, this actual app, and at least for this kind of concept we're doing, is for the IT team. So IT team. Obviously, we can make the app have a, kind of the requester, the customers logging in to see their tickets. But for this simple version that I'm going to do right now, it's just going to be an app for the IT team to manage the tickets they have in. So then if I'm looking at, what's the most important information? This is kind of, what is it that I want them to get from it? What do they want to see the most? And so, of course, they're going to see, tickets assigned to them, tickets unassigned. So when they're looking to pick up a ticket that has come in, the manager level, I'll probably want to see, daily or weekly report of what's come in and what's been completed. And then I just want to have, I think, as I'm thinking of user experience, I've made a bunch of service desk type apps in the past, but it always depends on who you're working with. So I think the most successful apps are the ones you collaborate with. Right now, it's just me. But if you're in this process, like I said, we're doing the short on the fly version. But if you have that opportunity, find the people you're making this app for and really, bring them into the collaboration part of it and get their feedback, really sculpt what they're looking for on a product. What are some of the struggles they have? Because that's going to be your best solution that you create. I think too, whenever you're kind of, working on a solution for a team or, company, when you let them collaborate, they kind of feel like they're part of it. And so there's not as much of a resistance in trying a new solution. I've implemented so many different tools and apps in the past, and you'll find a lot of times there can be a lot of resistance in trying something new. But when you bring in those people into the collaboration part, they kind of feel like they're really part of it, and they're more open into jumping in and getting in there. So like I said, always try to make that an important process in your Power App building, but we are on the fast version, so I'm just going to do some assumptions. So we have, tickets assigned to them, tickets unassigned, daily or weekly. Definitely, let's say, anything late. I would want to know if, I have tickets that have been sitting unassigned, uncompleted, let's say, been sitting there for more than 48 hours. Really depends on, your team size and everything. But in general, I would think it should be, 48, anything older than 48 hours, I'd want to know. So let's just say 2 days or more. So then I think we kind of have the basics of what we want to focus on, what information. I also want to kind of look at, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have a gallery of all these tickets. I may want to have some kind of, let's do these requirements. So on top of having the kind of important information that we just listed, I would say some other requirements would be, sorting by status, receive date, let's say maybe not sorting, but filter by assigned versus unassigned, date, status, and maybe be able to search by, say, ticket number or customer name. Actually, maybe even the title. So if I kind of remember, oh, I did see a ticket somewhere for someone having an issue logging into a Power App, maybe I want to have that option to be able to search Power App. Cool. So I've got some kind of brief notes of who I'm creating this for, what the purpose is, and what are some of the requirements. And then what you can start doing is you can actually just go ahead and kind of come up with a design in PowerPoint first. I often like to sketch, so I'll sketch something first, kind of get notes of, what's this flow going to be. I use tools like Lucidchart as well to create a wireframe, but we're on the accelerated version, like I said, so what I'm going to do is just kind of come up with a rough idea. I think what we'll get to today is probably just the main screen that has the tickets listed with the filters. I'll probably do a later video on maybe the form and just wrapping this app up completely. But I'm going to make it a goal to at least get our dashboard main screen completed. So let's kind of think about this main screen. I know you guys probably want to jump straight into, but like I said, I think this is the most important. Plus, when I just jump right in, you're going to end up going back and forth trying to switch things around, and you end up wasting more time where it doesn't take that long to just play around in PowerPoint. So if I have my screen, I'm doing a tablet size, so it's gonna be roughly this size. I'm probably going to want to have a preset filter. If you guys saw the HR, IT offboarding, onboarding app I did, I think it's kind of, I'm thinking the same idea, where what we'll do is have some kind of side menu here where users can actually filter the report. So here I'd have something like, unassigned tickets, my tickets, all tickets, things like that. And then I would have, I think, the background. Usually anytime I do the background color of an app, I try to, you can use white, of course, but I always try to do like a light gray or a very light blue. I feel like it has really nice contrast with being able to add a white table or white gallery on top of it. So this is showing how fast I am in PowerPoint as I struggle to find where everything is. I'm gonna pick that. And then this is kind of like my go-to design. As you see, like I'm kind of like quickly already knowing what I kind of want to do. And it's because I do have a little bit of a go-to whenever it comes to having kind of a gallery of tickets or records that I want to show. I may have that side menu that's going to be a way to filter reports. If you're if it's not for filtering, it's going to be to navigating different parts of your site. With this, because we're going to do a filter, I think here what I'd want to have is I want this top header just so that I can have maybe a search bar or definitely a add button. And I don't want a border, so I'm going to take this out. And then, I would go ahead and do my kind of gallery here. And so like I said, definitely try to pre-plan out the design. I do the design, if I'm doing a client project, I never do the design in Power Apps, because to me, it's like the process I'm going to do is once I get all the requirements and all these kind of discovery phases done, I'm then going to use the Power Apps to structure my data, make sure I have an understanding of how I need to, sculpt the data in any way, filter it, think about any delegation issues, stuff like that. The design part I want to do out of there so that once I come into the Power App, I know what I'm going to do. I have a pretty good idea. I'm not going to waste time playing around with stuff way too much. So then if, I see the tickets here, I think I do want to have a kind of quick visualization of a summary of what's going on. So there's definitely a way I can kind of do that on the filter panel if I wanted, but I did this on the onboarding, offboarding app. If you guys saw it, I kind of put a summary up here. And so I think we'll probably try that. We'll give that a go and see, how we like that. And then I think the last part would be, making sure I have a new button. I think what you really have to also think about is, of course, I want to make all my apps responsive, but it's important to just think about, what's the main devices that are going to be used. Is this going to be mainly mobile, mainly browser? In this case, I'm going to make this just for a tablet. Of course, I would make it responsive if this was like we're doing a full product, but I'm going to say, this is going to be tablet to web browser because most of the IT guys are going to be on the computers where they're helping people remotely anyways. So that's how we're going to set this up, where I'm going to have maybe a new button here. If we're getting into, mobile design, I'd probably have like my new button down here because I do want to think about like when you're using your phone, where your thumbs can actually reach. And so kind of having it up at the top would be a little hard to reach sometimes, so the bottom would be better. But if we're, when we do a responsive design, we can definitely have that moved around. But I think this is kind of a good structure right now. Trying to think if I'm missing anything. Filter, little header, kind of a summary here, gallery. I think we can just go ahead and jump in. So I have my help desk data set tracked. Now, of course, with any good user experience, we're going to want to make sure the app is has good performance. Performance may seem more like the back-end data side of a Power App, but it really does have to do with user experience. So I'm just going to go ahead and do my app on start and do a quick collection. And I kind of, like I said, I'm kind of foreseeing this as just looking at active existing tickets. We can look at, how we do a archive later, but for now, I'm going to want to collect my active tickets. So clear collect, definitely try to have a naming convention that you're consistent with. So it is a collection. So I'm just starting with COL, and I'm going to do active help tickets. Be really obvious in your naming, because if you are collaborating with anyone, you're going to want to make sure they know what these are. So don't be super, obscure with the naming. Just be very clear. And I'm going to want to do, let's say, filter, help desk, and I'm going to want just active. So like we said, or like I said, I'm going to use the status number. So 1, 2, and 3, 1 being active, 2 being on hold, 3 being completed. So for me, even though it's on hold, that's active. It's something that's not complete, fully completed. So I'm going to want to see anything that's 1 or 2. So I'm going to use status equals 1 or status equals 2. Cool. So we have a collection there. When we do want to look at completed, we can definitely make a collection for that as well. But just to start, I want to see just my active. So let me go ahead and run this. All right, so let's start with the gallery. Just go ahead and put this as home screen. So for my background, this is definitely my go-to. It's F4, F4, F4. I really just like having that light gray background because I do use a lot of, white headers and white galleries. So I think this is a nice contrast. Another good one is if you go to like the default colors, this kind of light blue is also a pretty dope color. I'm gonna stick with my F4. So then I'm gonna go ahead and add, let's say the top header. So for the top header, what I'm going to use, I'm gonna start with a non-drop shadow header because as of now, I'm kind of thinking this is gonna be just used for the search bar. And I'll get into how I kind of use the drop shadows and everything, but I'm gonna put just a nice flat white. And sorry, this is a more scripted, planned out video. I just really want you guys to be able to get a sense of kind of my thinking processes when I get into having an app with a good UX and UI design. My go-to header is kind of 64 to 56. When you're making a mobile app, you do have to think of things like, the iPhone does have this kind of like dip, and that usually is kind of a 72 height in order to not have your text blocked out there. For regardless, I think 64, 56 is usually kind of, like I said, my go-to header. You could even go down to 48. Any smaller will be difficult to have any kind of buttons in here. And so like I said, I want this to be white. And just make sure I don't have any hovers or anything like that on here. Cool. All right, and so now I'm going to add my gallery. So let me do blank vertical. Actually, I want to show, let's see. All right, so I did a gallery with my collection. If you look at the default, so a lot of times, we may want to use just the default. See why nothing is showing here. Oh, okay. So when I use this default, it comes with two labels. So let's make this one title, and let's make this one. I think it was submitted. Yeah, submitted by name. All right. So when I do a default, I can see kind of that template that comes out. And one of the main rules I kind of look at when I'm doing design is I try to limit the use of borders or key lines. The more you add, the busier your app gets. And these kind of arrows to actually jump into, let's say, the form, I don't find them necessary. I think if this is an app your users are going to frequently use, they should get to the point of knowing that they can just click on this. Plus, you ever want to limit someone to having to click this spot to view that data or wherever it is that's going to navigate from this record. So let's start from scratch. And I'll just try to be consistent about naming. So I'm going to call this gallery active tickets. So now one of the big things when I kind of look at all the apps that are shared, they're great apps that, people post on Twitter or whatever. And there's just some simple things to really keep in mind that'll really make your app kind of pop and just feel like there was a lot changed to it, but really it's just simple things. And one of those things are your margins. I try to be super consistent on margins. I use anything from, in 8, 16, and 24. So I just forgot like what it's called in math, like divisibles of 8. And the reason of that is because most app screen sizes can be pretty easily divided by 8. And so it makes it a safe number to work with. And what I'll often do sometimes is, of course, I can put it in my, the X and Y formulas for those objects to have these set margins, but a little quick, easy way to do it, just to be able to eyeball, at least for getting started, is I just do a little, I make my own margin. So I'm going to do red border, no fill, and I'm going to have this here, and I'm going to make the width. So I use 24 on the edges. I think for me, 24 is, no, I don't think for me is 24. Like I know my go-to is 24. I think with Power Apps, the default two margins are usually like 30, which 30 is fine too. Like I said, I use divisibles of 8, so I'm going to do 24 is kind of how I space out any objects. The smallest margin I'll do is 16, and that's if I have something within a card, a gallery card, to, let's say having a header and a subheader next to each other, I might make those 16. But your object should be pretty consistent, and that's why I'm going to use 24 here. And then as I'm just thinking about it, I did say I'm going to probably add a little side panel, so I'm going to put a little spot for that right now. I do have this like super ghetto calculator, so I can constantly look up what my margins or object sizes should be. So I'm going to find, let's say, a good size for this guy. Let's do, it's 322 big. That might be massive. Definitely want to keep enough space so that I can show as much data on my gallery as possible. Let's try 240. Looks good. All right, and so now I'm actually going to make the gallery go to the end of this object as well as a screen. And the reason there is because I can just make the labels have an adjustment to have that 24. And then when it comes into adding headers, it'll just make it easier for me to match the X value or the Y value, sorry, no, the X value of a label with a header. So I'm just going to make them the same width, and then I'm going to take out any of the template padding I have in here. And for this, I'm going to probably want to do a, let's say, 56. Yeah, I think that's a good enough size. So I'm using my collection. Now I'm going to add an item. So what I'm going to do here is just, you can do an all white table. I like to do separate white boxes to separate out the each record. So in this case, each ticket. So what we're going to use for that is an SVG. So I'm going to go ahead and add an image. So an SVG is just if you don't know what that is, it's a scalable vector graphics. It's something that's been around like since the 90s, but didn't really become popular until like 2017-ish, which is weird because it's definitely something that is so powerful and useful. But I think it really just had to do with, since it didn't have the immediate response that it should have had, browsers didn't support it until then. So now with browsers supporting SVGs and being able to render them, they're a really powerful tool because they don't work off of a pixel grid like a PNG or JPEG, which means that it's totally scalable and responsive. Where if you have a PNG that is, let's say, 60 pixels by 60 pixels, when I make it any larger than that, it's going to start being pixelated. The SVG is basically just shapes and colors and lines, text. It uses coordinates to make those kind of shapes. And so it's a super powerful tool. It's really just a text file saying where everything should be. And it doesn't take up as much space as PNGs or JPEGs that you might be importing in here. So for doing a SVG, I'm going to go ahead and add an Svg code here, which uses XML. So I do have one that I'm going to just copy, and then I'll kind of go into it a little bit. All right, so I'm not going to get into so super detail about the structure of all this. Essentially what I have is I have my first portion of this that's kind of using, let's say, the preset of what I need to enter in here to get my SVG to work. And so right now, you guys can pause it and copy and paste this. This would be a great time. Now, getting into it, the simplest way to explain it is I have my width and height here, which you can see is in multiple locations. Now, this is not the width and height of that actual, let's say you can see right now this rectangle I'm getting. What I will do is I'm going to make it the width of, let's say, this gallery. And this object is 1126 by 56, so I'm going to make it that. And you'll see what I mean by this is not the actual width. I am working on putting a component with this actual code for you guys, so as soon as I get that done, I'll definitely post it on Twitter. But for now, you're gonna have to go through this weird manual process with me. All right, so I got those width and height entered in these three spots. Now when I'm getting down here, where I have this fourth width and height, this is going to be the actual. And the reason is because when we do a drop shadow, that white box is not the full size of the image because there's a drop shadow still. So it's going to be greater than the box size. So what I want to do here, and there is a little math formula I do use, but right now I'm going to kind of eyeball it and just go with a height of 48. And let's do, let's see. I'll do 1110. So I'm basically just taking 16 off on the width and the height from what my actual image box will be. And then over here, what I have is the offset of my drop shadow, I typically, your drop shadow should be a vertical offset, meaning when we're looking at drop shadows, it shouldn't be all the way on the right side of it. It shouldn't be all around it. We have to keep some kind of natural lighting, and what's going to give you the most natural, subtle look is going to be strictly vertical. So you'll see that on the X, I have it at 0, so there's no offset there. On the Y, I typically do 3. It's a simple number. And then here on the blur, I'm going to go ahead and do, let's actually make this 3. This is the, so when it comes into the blur, we have to think of everything in elevation. So if you thought of your app as kind of, if you're making, cutting out paper and kind of doing it like, literally like, let's say, I've got a header here. I know that it's going to float up, but my gallery might be slightly lower because it's under it. And so this is what's going to change that elevation for you. So 1, 2, and 3, it's going to make it lower, where if I'm going to use my top bar to have it above the gallery, I would make it maybe 6. But 3, I think it sounds good for right now, so we're going to try it out. And then the last piece is, or sorry, there's 2 more pieces. Over here we have this RX. It's going to be the rounding. My go-to is kind of 4. I don't like super rounded edges. Depends on kind of what you're styling, but for the cards, I kind of like a nice subtle rounded edge. And then here it's going to be, this is going to be where your actual X and Y value starting point of this object. And again, because the drop shadow is a little bigger, you wouldn't want to make it 0, 0, because you might be cutting off a little bit of the shadow. I'm going to try 4 and 4. Might need to make it a little larger, but we'll see how this looks. And then fill is going to be the color. This is using white, but you can put your full Svg Code hex in here. All right, so I think I'm pretty satisfied with this size. Let's see. Just make this, maybe I need to make it 64 and see what that looks like. All right. You can see we have a deeper shadow here. There is a little bit of a hard line, which I don't want. So I'm going to make this that full width. And that helps it out. Now, because I use 3, it's going to be this deeper shadow here. And because I want that to be, the lowest point. So darker the shadow, lower your item is. And then if it's moving on to, let's say, I'm going to eventually make this have a drop shadow, I'm going to use probably 6 for that shadow blur to show that it's higher than these objects. All right. And I use, like I said, a vertical drop shadow. So you're not going to see much on the right and left panel. Now, I definitely don't want it this close. So you can see here, this is what I'm going to want as the margin. I'm going to do another one to go over here. So then what I'd want, dog's going crazy, is I want to make this width 48 less. So let's see if I'm doing it at 1126. I've got to get that handy calculator out because I can't do math apparently. So I'm going to do 1078. And this being my X coordinate, I'm going to want to make this 24. And now you can see this is right within my margins. I can probably, no, let's leave it. So the Y coordinate of this SVG is 4. So it's something I definitely have to keep in mind when I'm trying to align anything to it. So I think we're good. Let's hide those for now. All right, so if I'm looking at what's the most important information I want to see from these tickets, the first thing I'm going to want is status. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do oh, I realize I labeled this wrong. So I'm going to want to see the status. You know, if I'm coming in and I have to look at all these tickets and figure out what to tackle first, I'm going to want some kind of indicator. So we're going to use a little coloring. No, I don't want a label. Although I can, no. Actually, sorry, I'm like going back and forth. We can use a label. So I'm going to want this to be the X at 24 and the Y at 4. And I'm going to make this height 48. And so now if I were to do like, you can see if I have a border to it, it's going to be perfectly lined up because I'm using from that SVG, I'm using this width and height with these coordinates. And what I'm going to want to do is I make this label this. So for the status, if I were to do that, I know that I've set it up to have active and on hold. But there's going to be a little more that I want from that. I'm going to want to know, you know, is this overdue? You know, is this something that's running late that I should have responded to by now? Is this a new ticket that just happened today? Is this something that's in progress because someone, you know, received it today, but it has been assigned already, so I don't have to really, you know, worry about that one. You know, if it's on hold, okay, like I know that one's currently on hold. So you know, you could technically make all these statuses for that, but what we're going to kind of do is just use the simple statuses we have and color code them in a way that will make it easier for the user. So if I'm just like thinking of what that code would be like, I'm going to want to make a few rules. So let me just think about it. Okay, so let's start with the first, new ticket. A new ticket to me is received today and it's unassigned. So I'm going to put, I'm going to do if this item status equals 1. So this is for active. Come here, Finn. Sorry, this dog is so dramatic and annoying. Okay, so I'm going to do if this item dot status equals 1, and let's say we want it to be unassigned, right? So that's what's going to be new. So I'm going to do, and over here, this item status equals 1, and this item dot assign name equals blank. Then new. So when you're doing your statuses, one of the big things with UX, first, let's see what our issue is. So I need to close the and over here. Then new and assigned. For now, I'm just going to put NA. When it comes to UX, you really want to be super obvious. Of course, just putting new would look cleaner, but being obvious will make it a lot easier for your users just to jump in and be like, okay, cool, I got it. So that's why I'm going to use kind of a new / unassigned. Definitely if, based on the users, I'm like, okay, they know what new means. I don't have to worry about it. But in this case, as a new product, I want to make sure it's super clear to them. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust this. When it comes to fonts, I try to never use more than 2 font types. And then when it comes to sizes, I stick to usually like 3 or 4. So I may have, let's say, a header size, a title size, and then subtitle and body, and then maybe a very small text for, let's say, things like hyperlinks or anything like that. But in this case, what I'm going to do is 11 for my general kind of body size text. I'm going to make this left adjustment 24 because I do want to keep that 24-point margin. And then I'm going to fill this. So let's do, I'm just going to do a general color. Obviously, I'll change it based on the various statuses, but I just want to get a kind of look and feel for this. So let's make it centered. Actually, I don't need to do left adjustment if I'm centering it. I'll make this white for now. Now I can make it take up that whole kind of space, but I'm not super into that right now. So I'm going to do 24. And so I do, so if I have that height is 48 and I'm making this 24, then I'm going to want to make sure I even out so that this is centered. So I should have, my 4y plus 24, so let's do 28. And that was clearly wrong. It should actually be 16. All right, so I kind of have this centered here, and now I don't need it to be that wide. I think like 96 should be fine. Nope. Let's go with 104. No. Using my trusty calculator to see which is a good size to use. All right, I think I'm pretty good with this size. All right, so let's finish that code. So if I have anything that has status equals 1, what I'm missing is, let's see, status equals 1, unassigned equals blank. What I'm missing is I want it to be for just today, because if it's something late, I don't want it to say new and unassigned. So I need to add in one more and rule. And so what I'm going to do is I have my first status equals 1. Then I have, it also has to be unassigned. And then I also want to have that this item dot submitted date equals or it's due is today. Close up the and do that. So now you can see I have less new and unassigned tickets because it's only going to take the ones that have been received today that are unassigned. And then going further, so if I have, here, let me just let these dogs out. So if I want to go further, I'm going to probably want to do my late ones. So let's look at if this item dot submitted date is less than today. Oh, sorry. Greater than today plus so this being if it's more than 2 days old. But I also want to factor in if it's on hold. So I'm going to do this item submitted is greater than today plus 1, meaning 2 days old, and this item dot status so I'm going to put equals 1 for active, 2 would be on hold, so I don't want to count it if it's on hold. And then I don't have to worry about it being completed because right now our collection is only showing active. So I close on my and I make this overdue. And then I'll make it if this item dot status equals 3 on hold, and then else, let's say, call it in progress. Hopefully that captures everything it needed to capture. So I can see I got some in progress. I definitely feel like there should be an overdue. Oh, you know what? It shouldn't have been greater than, it should have been less. I was right the first time. There we go. That looks better. So new, unassigned, overdue, in progress, new, unassigned. Perfect. So now that I have those, I can go ahead and color code these. Let me just put label status. So for this, I'm going to use switch. It'll process faster than using if, or I can say label status dot text equals new unassigned and screen. Of course, I want to better plan out these colors to be consistent, but I'm going to use the simple colors here. If it's overdue, red, progress, I'm going to use blue. Blue is usually kind of a good indicator that something is, currently in the works. It's not an alarming color, so blue will be a good one. And then I do on hold. And do a gray. You can make it kind of another subtle color, like maybe purple if you wanted, but I just want to show that there's no huge alarm for this. Maybe down the road I want to put an indicator to say like, hey, this is on hold plus it's a week old, like what's going on. But for now, I'm just going to put it as gray. Perfect. So let me just double check this, make sure there's nothing wrong with it. So I put this item.status equals 3, it should actually be 2 because like I said, 1 is active, 2 is on hold, 3 is completed. So if you want, you can copy this. All right. Now I've got these labels all done, pretty into it. I would start to get into now the rest of the labels. So I'm going to go ahead and insert another label. So keep it at 11. And I actually make them touching just so that I can make a rule, saying the Y should be the label status Y plus the width, so it stays connected, and then I can just do a 24-point indent so that it keeps those margins. And I'm going to put submitted by name. I definitely want to keep as much, get as much info on here. So if I'm thinking about, the info I want, I definitely want to have who requested it, the status, the date, if it's assigned, not assigned, ticket number, things like that. And so if you're working with an internal team, it's a help desk for an internal team, I probably know most of these people, so I can probably just do first name, last name. And I kind of just wrote this on the side. So if I want to do submitted by name, so the full first name and then the last initial, because in this case, submitted by name is one text field. It's not 2 separate fields. So I can use split to take out the first name and then mid to just get that last initial so that I have this. And now that gives me a little more room. And I'm going to go ahead and say make this 120. Now I can go ahead and keep moving along with the additional labels that I want to add. So for this, let's say I want to get date. This item dot submitted date. All right. All right, so I have my date here. We've got our status, we've got our user. Now we're going to just want to add a couple more fields. So I'm just going to make this a little smaller, it's a little long. So I'm going to copy and paste this. I'm going to go ahead and say here we can put who's assigned. So I want to be able to see what's not assigned, and then if something is assigned, who's assigned to it. And also because for this app, we're thinking there's going to be 5 or less people on the IT side using it. So again, I don't think we need a full name, and I think we could even go shorter than what we did over here by showing just the initials. And so I did write down the initials. So I'm going to do a little cheat and copy and paste. Whoops. Let's see what we did here. All right, so kind of similar to what we did for this person who submitted his name, except we're not going to do first name, last initial. It's going to be just the first and last initial. And then if it's blank, because it's unassigned, I just put this little hyphen here. This can be centered, and then I'm going to want to let's see if I can do 24 by 24. Probably too small. So let's do with 32. Nope. All right, and then so now I can see that we have the hyphen for things that are unassigned, and then we have the initials. But I definitely wanted to pop out a little more, be able to see, which color should be what. And you can make a table for your IT team and, kind of assign them a color for each person. But what I did, just from like a previous app, is I'm going to, this is definitely a manual way of doing it where I can, on my app on start, I can put a color for each user, but I would definitely recommend creating a table where you add your IT people. And another thing you can do is you can do a collection to pull all the, let's say assigned IT people and do kind of add an ID to each person and assign a random color. But doing it this way, they can get used to kind of having their set color. So I could, always see that, all right, Yusuf sets purple. So it kind of makes it a little easier for me to pinpoint which color is mine. I'm going to go ahead and throw that in or on top of a circle. Bring this forward. So I may need to make this bigger. Let's do 32 by 32. I think that fits all right. And then now, with those colors I have, I can do a lookup so I can update my circle fill. So what I did is, if it's blank, make it white. If not, look up the collection we did of the help team and take that assigned color. So let me just run my onStart. All right, and then same with what I'll need to update is the text color, because I'm not going to be able to read those colors, the initials on those colors. So I'll need to make them white, but I do want to see the hyphen for when it's not assigned. I didn't do a gray box for unassigned because I want it to be almost look blank. So I'm going to update my text color. So that if it's blank, make it black, not make it white. Now this makes it a lot easier to kind of see what's assigned, what's not. I can easily see my name in the purple, so I can catch that quick. And then now we'll get into like what other additional fields we need. Ticket ID, I don't think it's super high priority. If I look at tickets that I manage, I rarely go look at the ticket number. We'll add it in here just in case, but the next thing is to be able to see, all right, I can see everyone, that's requested kind of help, but seeing that title will be nice to see because I can kind of see like, oh, this is like a password reset. I know that's something I can help them with really quick and I might want to jump to it. Or if I'm double checking, like I said, a specific ticket I saw that I want to double check in here. So what I'll do is add that in. We have both the subject and we have, so the title of the email would be the subject. And then we also have the actual body of the email, which in this is labeled the description. So I'm probably gonna want to see both, but if I do title, it's 300. Let's make it more. I can see there's a combination. Some people have longer description, some have shorter. I don't really kind of like the inconsistency. I would like to see a little more information, if possible, at a preview. And so what I can do is I'm going to want to copy. I want to take both the subject of that email and a little bit of the body if I can for things when I see like this ticket here, I need a PC. There's room to add some more text so I can bring in the body. The only issue is with the body of an email, there's a bunch of line breaks. And so an easy thing to do here, open this up. I'm going to take the title. I'm going to add these two lines just to show a separation. And then what I did is I used substitute to take the description and remove any line breaks. That way, because if I don't, I'm going to see like hi and then nothing else, but if I take out the line breaks, I'll see hi and then whatever the message is. And I just want to make sure I don't have this wrapped. So taking wrap text off. Now I can see a little more of that description. I'm going to change this blue just so we can start seeing these a little more together. Another dark gray that I'm kind of into is 45, 45, 45. And now we kind of have a pretty decent looking app coming together. Like I said, the last piece I would add in is the ticket number. And now I'm looking at this like new and slash unassigned is super long. I do want to be obvious, but I want to make it a little smaller. If we can just, let's see, that looks a little too crowded or what. I'm going to go ahead and put new. Since we do have the color-coded assigned, it is pretty obvious. So I'm kind of taking back what I said. Again, you do want to be obvious, but since here we can see new and I can see it's unassigned, it'll be a little more helpful, which then means I do need to change the fill to show new. Now I can go ahead and make this, let's say, 120 and look at all that sweet room we have. I am eyeballing the margins, but we can use our margins we made, but just for the purpose of this, I'm going to just eyeball it a bit. So here I'm going to put ID. And this is going to be the ticket number. We're using that Sharepoint List ID. And I'm also going to justify this. So we get to the beginning of starting these. We have 1 digit to 2 digit, and then eventually it'll be 3 digit. A simple way to kind of format this is to go ahead and use, so putting the hashtag and text, and I'm formatting with all these zeros. That way I kind of just have a set width, so it looks way more consistent and clean. And that's just a good way, like when you're, like I said, you're starting off, making it so that you can easily see a set width without ruining the digits that you have. So if it's at the hundreds, if it's at 1 digit, 2 digit, it's all going to be formatted the same. But also, I don't really have an emphasis on this. I don't really care to emphasize this overly too much. So I'm going to just use a gray, because I don't want to draw attention, and it also helps separate what's going on here. I do realize now I'll kind of offset this a bit. Let's group these. Cool, so now we have pretty decent looking gallery. I think over here, what we could add a drop shadow, and I do have a side one, which I'll walk you through. Taking basically the exact same thing we put in our image over here, I can do as an image for this side menu. So let me move that. So what I did in here, same thing that we saw before. I'm just making the width be consistent. Let me just double check. I use 240 as the width. So I'm gonna want my width here to be 240. 768 is the correct height. I'm not gonna do any rounded corners. And then for the X and Y, I made 0 because I want it to perfectly fill up these corners. I made that fill 45, 45, 45, and then my blur I did do 6, which, for the gallery did 3, but I want to raise the elevation of this. And let me just double check and make sure there's nothing weird. Leaving these all 300, 300 by 768. I may have to extend this a little bit so that I don't cut off the drop shadow here. Now, one weird thing is you will see this like weird gray line. When you publish your app, it goes away. So you don't have to worry about that. Now I can have a side menu here, and I'm going to go and put a help desk. Might be too aggressive. So I want to do this 24, 24. I made it separate lines because I'm just going to, you can use a HTML label to keep it one control. But I'm just going to do this for now. I'll bold it, and I'm going to make this. Let's make these both white. Let's see. So I'll kind of have this little header going on. I don't know how into it I am. A simple thing for just kind of getting, kind of a different kind of design going on is, playing with the font weights. So I think, maybe this will work. All right, I think I can do this one. I think I'm down. And maybe I'll just throw a little icon in here. So far we have a pretty decent looking app. I definitely went a little over time here. So what I'm going to do is just make this part 1. Part 2 will finish the rest of this gallery, or this whole screen rather. But you can kind of see, just how I kind of go through the process of coming up with a good user experience and how I kind of play around with the UI to make a decent looking app. So stay tuned. I will post part 2 this week. Thanks for watching, guys.